Вони з ФСБ, їх агенти, кілери.
$100 000 за ліквідацію.
Завдання прямо з Кремля – показове вбивство відомого військового і обов'язково в центрі Києва.
Для мене така смерть неприємлива.
Російська ФСБ хотіла організувати в Україні фабрику кілерів, але виявилося, що підлеглі малюка переграли ворога і тут, бо навіть головний ліквідатор, на якого робили ставку росіяни, виявився агентом СБУ. І про це ФСБівці чують у ці секунди в реальному часі з цього відео.
Вони ще думають, що він його вб'є.
Подвійна гра спецслужб з кодовою назвою «Перевертень» вийшла на фінішну пряму. І сьогодні ми отримали ексклюзивну можливість розкрити таємниці нової операції Служби безпеки України, від якої полетять голови та погони кремлівців, яка ще більше підмочить репутацію спеців з Луб'янки. Отже, як Служба безпеки України вчергове переграла ФСБ у її улюбленій грі. Все почалося майже рік тому, 29 листопада 2024 року, з оголошення в улюбленому фейсбівцями телеграмі.
Виражусь мовою окупанта, іщу роботу з різками.
ФСБ клюнуло і в результаті добре розіграної переписки запропонувала нашому агенту роботу з ризиками та захмарними заробітками. ФСБівці звітували керівництву, що їм вдалося завербувати професійного ліквідатора, неодноразового терориста-смертника, якого за їх поширеною схемою знищують разом із жертвою, і не підлітка, а надійного агента. Його показовою роботою мало стати вбивство командира і засновника грузинського національного легіону Мамуки Мамулашвілі. І обов'язково посеред столиці України.
Welcome, everybody, to Radicalized Truth Survives. I'm Heidi Kuda, and today High Fidelity and I are interviewing a true war hero. He is the commander of the Georgian National Legion in Ukraine. He has been fighting against Russian aggression for 32 years. He says America can really help by learning how to get inoculated against disinformation. Have a listen. Mamuka Mamulashvili, I hope I said that correct. We are so grateful to have you with us today. I am just over the moon excited to talk to you. We were introduced by our friend Adam Sabera, who you obviously know, who's doing some great work himself in Ukraine as a journalist and analyst. And he told us about this folk hero named Mamuka, who'd actually, sounded like somebody out of, kind of a superhero comic or something, and yet you exist. Here you are with us today. The reason I'm so excited is that I have been, and Hi-Fi and our other podcast partner Jim, we've been on the front lines of the information war for many years. I've been doing this for a decade. These guys jumped in about 5 years ago. And it's very real. We see the information warfare component very, very real. But you have been fighting primarily, the Russian aggression, almost your entire life, like for decades. And can you kind of give our viewers a sense of what drew you into the fight as a teenager, and kind of give us a background of your family before we jump into the good work you're doing in Ukraine?
Thank you for having me here one more time. It's a pleasure talking to you, and I'm always happy to talk to my comrades, to people who really understand what's going on with the world, and with people that are trying to do something. It's very important for each of us to have compassion to people that are dying today. And in our case, we are sharing our blood with Ukrainians, and we want to do our best to save the democratic world, because it is falling. Especially it is falling after Trump became a president, and we see reducing the quality of the democratic values after that. Unfortunately, that is the truth, and that is what is happening with the world. So, back to my fight with Russia. I was 14 when I first faced Russian aggression. I was a kid in Georgia, just a regular kid, but my father was a military general in the Georgian armed forces, and most of my time I was spending with my father on a military base. So actually I grew among militaries. And when the fight against Russian aggression began in 1991, it was one of the parts of Georgia called Tskhinvali region. My father joined a fight and took me there with him. It was a good motivation for our soldiers to have a son of a general with him in a fight, and he clearly understood that I need to go through it. I will need to go through it even when I will be growing up. So he decided to show me what I will be facing in the early childhood. So, that's when I found out who the real enemy was to Georgia, and that's when I started a fight against Russia. So I spent three months in Russian captivity together with my father. Then I was exchanged by war prisoners exchange program. My father unfortunately stayed in a captivity for more than 2 years, and when he came from the captivity, his weight was 39 kilos. His regular weight was more than 130 kilos. So you can imagine what a guy after Russian captivity might look like. You have seen recent photos of Ukrainian soldiers who were in Russian captivity, and you can see actually what was going on back in 90s in Georgia, because we never had this media support that Ukraine has. Nobody was punishing Russians because making war prisoners starving, and we were not often sitting in regular prison cells. It's a story that not much people know actually. We were sitting in cages that square cages from a steel, and it was 1 meter to 1 meter. For me as a kid, it was normal because I was smaller than others, but I can't imagine how other soldiers were actually sitting in those cages, because for a 14 years old kid, it's okay. You can sleep there and there is enough space, and it is underground. So it was quite difficult what we experienced in Georgia, and I'm sure that Ukrainian prisoners are also experiencing the same while we are speaking now. All the war prisoners are, under terrible, tortures right now. That's what we have to know about currently. About Russia and captivity in Russia. So my way began early in my childhood. I fought in Georgia. I fought 2 times in Russian-Georgian war in 2 different regions in Georgia that are occupied now by Russia. And later I fought in Chechnya in 2 campaigns against the Russian aggression again. And actually I dedicated all my life to a fight, with Russian invaders in different wars.
It's incredible because only now, as I've done a lot of work, do I understand more of what's been happening in Georgia. But can you let our viewers know why you weren't at all surprised about what was happening in Ukraine, because you'd already been through it with your own country, and that is part of, I'm sure, why you are fighting on the front lines in Ukraine. Can you please explain to a Western audience what happened in Georgia that so prepared you for the fight in Ukraine?
Unfortunately, in Georgia happened exactly the same war crimes that we're facing in Ukraine, but nobody counted them, nobody was filming them, and nobody knows about them. Most population of one of the regions or both of the regions of Georgia were just killed without any questions. Kids raped, women, children, and generally the civilian population was killed by regular Russian armed forces in 90s, and we don't have, even Georgians don't have enough information about genocide that Russians did in Georgia. Georgia is fighting against Russia for 400 years, and we are fighting, and it is, a historical fight, what is happening now, and we have a hope that we can win this fight, because Georgia, with its population of 3 million people, had never had enough lives to stop Russia. The only missing component for Georgians was not enough lives that could be given for our freedom. Now, together with Ukrainians, we have at least some equilibrium to fight with Russians. That's why Georgians, among all the foreigners, are more than all the others. And Georgian Legion was and is the first formation into foreign formation that was set up in Ukraine. So we have gone through all this pain. We have gone through everything that Ukraine is experiencing now. And unfortunately for Georgian soldiers, it was deja vu what happened in Kiev and Kiev region, in Bucha, Hostomel, and other parts of occupied territories when Russia started a full-scale invasion. We have seen the same scenes of raped and tied up 10-year-old kids. And that's what Russians were doing in Kiev region. That's what we are fighting for from 90s and, for the last 400 years against Russia. So it's a terrible state with terrible mentality, and it is not Putin who is the only criminal there. It's a mentality of Russian society. It's a Russian society who gives a green card to Putin to do the war crimes. And, we need to be united to fight against this global evil, because when it turns its eyes to Europe and will start the invasion, there might not be Georgian Legion or Ukrainians anymore who will be standing and fighting against Russia. You will have to hold your weapon on your doorsteps and start fighting against Russia. There will be no experienced guys from Ukraine or Georgians who will be standing, in the first line to defend Europe. We're doing it now, but tomorrow many lives might be taken by Russia. So that's why we need more support, we need more ammunition, we need more fight against disinformation campaigns that you can do, civilians can do. And it is very important for us, you to stand against disinformation campaigns set up by Russia, because they're spending huge money, they're spending huge energy to disinform Western society. Western society has never touched such huge disinformation that Russia is spreading. And we need your support, we need your help, and we need you to understand the reality, what it really looks like. Because Russia is not using ethnical Russians for disinformation campaigns. They are using Americans, they are using Brits, they are using Hungarians, they are using Slovaks for disinformation campaigns. They are using mostly Westerners. They are paying them to take part in the disinformation campaign. So that's, in my opinion, what you could be mostly helpful for us.
Thank you so very much for that. That was so important. One more from me, and then Hi-Fi, please jump in. First, I'd love you to tell our viewers a little bit more about the Georgian National Legion, like kind of what it's comprised of. I know that you're the commander of it, and anything that you can tell us about them. And then also, please tell our Western audience how big of a part disinformation plays in the build up to actual kinetic war, because I think it's something that is completely misunderstood. You told me that Americans in particular have no inoculation against information warfare. We have been trying to inoculate them on this show for 4 years.
Oh, okay. Let's start from the Georgian Legion. Georgian Legion was set up by me in 2014. In April of 2014, we already were in Ukraine and supporting Ukrainians in their fight. We were training Ukrainian armed forces that did not actually exist in the beginning of the war in 2014. So Georgian Legion was the first foreign formation that came to support Ukrainians and started training Ukrainian forces, militia battalions, military brigades, and so and so on. So now we joined the fight in the early, beginning of Russian invasion in Ukraine. And for Georgians, it was very clear that Russia is going to invade and launch a full-scale invasion in Ukraine sooner or later. So, though many Ukrainians never believed that. So Georgian Legion exists here for about 12 years. We're doing a good fight. We have professional forces. When we came to Ukraine, we were already professional soldiers that had several wars behind our backs, and we got the Ukrainian experience, the experience that Ukrainians are having now. So, we have huge experience, and numerously Georgian Legion as an ethnical formation, volunteer formation, is the largest in Ukraine. So we're doing our maximum to support Ukraine, to support Ukrainian sovereignty. And, the role of disinformation campaigns was your second question. So, disinformation is not secondary in this war. It is a central weapon in Russian arsenal. Before the tanks move, the lies are already in a place. So that's what Westerners need to know. These campaigns confuse people, divide allies, and weaken resistance. Without countering these informations, no military victory can be achieved. So that's the main part of Russian war. They are spending more money, they are investing more money in these information campaigns than in war itself. And we have to clearly understand that Russia pays more to those guys who work for their disinformation, online disinformation campaigns than buying tanks and producing weapons. That's how they get over countries like Slovakia, for example. Russian disinformation campaigns took the Slovakian society to choose pro-Russian power. The same what they did in Hungary, the same what they did in Georgia, the same what they are trying to do in Moldova right now, the same that they were trying to do even in the United States. So that's the biggest threat that exists now. Russia, during centuries, have been strengthening their disinformation campaigns. If today we have journalists like propagandists like Solovyov and others, we had poets, Russian poets like Pushkin and Lermontov, who were spreading Russian disinformation back in 19th century. So it has a legacy of disinformation. And this country consists of disinformation. So that's what we have to fight against. And you can be very helpful in that. So as I told you yesterday, there was a huge disinformation campaign against the Georgian National Legion. And we have been targeted by coordinated pro-Russian networks on Twitter and on other networks also. There are not random trolls. It's a well-coordinated attack on object that is given by FSB or GRU. It's Russian intelligence that are coordinating those groups. And those groups are very well coordinated, they're very well paid, and they do their job better than Americans, better than Ukrainians. Even Ukrainians are not enough vaccinated against those disinformation campaigns because, for example, in our case, one Ukrainian resource, media resource, joined the campaign against us. So it means that they were paid. They are also under investigation. It means that they were paid or they're working, and spreading Russian lies. So the first one is more possible. I want you to understand that they're targeting generally big groups, large groups of pro-Ukrainian volunteers. And it's not only Georgian Legion. Georgian Legion is an example. And we did even special courses, lectures about these disinformation campaigns that our press officer is reading in different regions in Ukraine now. Some of those people are now in Ukraine and they continue doing it. They continue coordinating Russian air raids, and we know that. And I don't want to say details of investigation, but, we're exposing all those people. We expose them, and I hope very soon those guys will be in a jail.
Thank you so very much for that. It is war. It's always been war, and why it was treated as less than war, I don't understand. That was incredibly powerfully stated and explained to us. High Fidelity.
You've been fighting Russian imperialism for 32 years now. And it's just, I haven't been against them as long, but I notice a trend. And it's always first come the lies, then comes the blood. They lied about Georgia. They said Georgia was attacking Russia. Then the war broke out. Putin lied about Chechen terrorists, and then the war broke out. Putin lied about Ukraine. Oh, they're hurting Russian-speaking Ukrainians. There's Nazis. And then the blood came. And then I look around at the other countries. I look at what happened in Latvia, in Lithuania, in Estonia, everywhere. You look at the attempted assassination of the Rheinmetall CEO. Everywhere, Russian lies, and then the blood. Is this something you've seen as well, or no?
As I mentioned, the first step for Russians is a huge disinformation campaign. They never start physically attacking a country if the background is not ready for that. They are doing a fundament for that, and then they are physically trying to get over the country. They could not get over Georgia, but they occupied Georgia politically. We have a pro-Russian government in Georgia that is raising criminal cases against legionnaires from Georgian Legion that are serving in Ukraine. They're trying to make us mercenaries. They're trying to do problems to our families. But they have to understand one simple thing, that families like mine dedicated 4 centuries fighting against Russian invasion and, Russian imperialistic ambitions. And we're not going to give up. And they understand that, but still they're trying to, get rid of us physically. And they're trying to delete our names with the disinformation. That's their main mission. So, as I told you, the main point for them is to start disinforming and then invade. So the first step is the most important, where they fund more. So there are several steps of Russian invasion that we have to understand. So I have given my whole life to this struggle, and I cannot stop because the mission is not finished yet, you know. And I fight because my friends and my comrades that dedicated their life to this fight, and they died. And me and my soldiers have no right to stop now.
It's so incredible. It's incredible to me, for the bravery and just the absolute, resolve to continue this fight. And I asked Adam Sibera, and I asked you this too, I asked Adam in particular, how did, you never fall, prey to the kind of trickery of disinformation? He's like, well, when you have a family that is no longer with you because the Russians killed him, it's pretty easy to not fall prey to disinformation. And can you explain the legacy of your family in dealing with Russian brutality? Because this is something that even predates, I think, your father becoming a general. This is something that has been with your family for, a century or so.
The story that my father remembered and was told to me, it was from 1921 of Russian invasion, when our whole family was killed by Russians. And as we had a very famous surname in Georgia, and they were always attacking the elite of the nation, my surname was Bakradze, not Mamulashvili. Most of the family members were killed, and one young man, being 18 years old, just escaped Russian captivity and changed his name to Mamulashvili. Mamulashvili in Georgian means son of his country. It is a very symbolic surname that he took for himself, and actually he was hiding his real surname. And many Georgian families have experienced the same breakdown and the same assassination of their family members. And that's what we're seeing from the day that Russia invaded Caucasia and was trying to invade. They assassinated and deleted whole nations in Caucasia, like Cherkessians that have been under Russian genocide. They almost do not exist, and many tribes that were just killed by Russians, that we don't even remember the names of the tribes today. So
Wow.
the real face of Russia is terrible. It's a face of evil, and we have to be weaponized to fight against it. Little by little, European countries are getting awakened, but we have to do it faster. And I'll
Yeah.
repeat, there will be no experienced soldiers like Ukrainians or Georgians who will be fighting now for Europe. Europe is going to have serious trouble. Even today, we see Russian drones flying over NATO space, and the Russians are not given an answer for that. So, in my opinion, the whole society of European Union should be a way more active than it is now.
We are completely in agreement there. You told me something quite beautiful that I wasn't really prepared for, that you still think that America is the world's strongest democracy and that you don't expect one man just to be able to take it down, because I'm seeing an erosion of our freedoms and our democracy like I never thought I'd see in our lifetime. And can you please say, from your perspective as a Georgian fighting in Ukraine, who's been fighting against Russian aggression for 32 years, what you see when you look over the shores and you look at America?
I see America at a crossroad right now. Many people there still think the war is far away, but if Ukraine is abandoned, authoritarian regime will gain moment globally. That's the point. And Americans will discover how fragile their own freedom can become. So that's why they have to understand that they're not donating something to Ukraine. It's not a donation. it's a fight of Ukrainian people globally for democratic values that were once started in the US. That's what Ukrainians are fighting for, and I'm glad that I'm a part of that fight. And Georgians are, have an honor to be the part of that fight. My message is for Americans. My message is very simple. Defend Ukraine now, and you will defend your own freedoms. That's the point.
Incredible. High fidelity.
So we talked about, disinformation is a weapon that Russia uses. And obviously they're also using drones and other things. But one of the weapons that no one ever talks about that Russia uses is billionaires. And I think this is important. I mean, in Ukraine, we had Medvedchuk. In Germany, we had Marsalik. There was another one up in Moldova that they just threw out. In Georgia, they have
That was Elon Shore. Elon Shore.
Yeah, Elon Shore they threw out of there. In Georgia, we have Ivanishvili. Can you tell me something about how that billionaire was used in Georgia to take over the government?
Okay, let's take it globally. Whatever we see now, it's a oligarchization of politics. In the United States, in Georgia, in Russia, it has always been, oligarchized, and many countries are not will not be an exception for that. Georgia was occupied by not pro-Russian. He has just a Georgian surname. He is a Russian oligarch that has a share of Gazprom, one of the largest Putin's companies, and he is a shareholder of Gazprom. So you can imagine that these guys, of course, working for Russia, had a mission to take over Georgian politics, and Russia investing huge money in Georgian government, to stay at a place. They will be killing Georgians. They will be doing every possible measure to keep the power, because Georgia today is used as a smuggling country for Russia, to bring spare parts for missiles, to bring some weapons, and to do some other commercial manipulations that Russia is banned to do. So, we globally see that oligarchs are taking over. And it happened in the United States. So, I do not doubt they could easily do it in Georgia. Though Georgian society is 100% anti-Russian. But still we see that finances are, doing more job. And they're using their power to do that. And they're using this power everywhere. And it is the same signature of Russians in all the countries where they took over. In Slovakia, Slovakian Prime Minister blamed me making a coup in Slovakia. So you can imagine that, those people are actually doing the same and the same way. Georgia did the same. Georgian government accused me in trying to do a coup in Georgia. Why would I do a coup in Slovakia? Or, okay, if, some people can understand that I might try to do it in Georgia, theoretically, why would I do it in Slovakia? And, I'll not be surprised if China or Iran will say the same about me. So it's the point that Russia is working on every front line and is trying to discredit everyone who is against totalitarian regimes. And during these 11 years, and I understood just one simple thing, that Russia did about 5 documentaries about Georgian Legion. When it started in 2015, I was very much surprised. And the narrative was that Georgian Legion was the one who started the Maidan in Ukraine. You can see it in official reports. You can see Yanukovych, ex-president of Ukraine, talking about it. You can see
Oh
Putin
my
talking about
gosh.
it.
Oh
You
my
can see
God.
ex-prime minister of Ukraine talking about Georgian Legion starting Maidan in Ukraine. So the point is that they are targeting ideological volunteer communities who have and bring some ideology of freedom. That's
Yeah.
a big threat for them. That's why I've been targeted only in 2025. They tried to assassinate me 7 times. And, they will be trying to do it again and again until Russia is finished and over.
Wow, I hear you speak, and I'm like, he's pissing off all the right people. You must be doing such a great job. I am very grateful to the Ukrainian special services for the work that they did to expose the attempt on your life, which I understood was using disinformation, was pretending to be a Ukrainian led assassination when in fact it was Russia and the Ukrainian version of the CIA intercepted it. And I'm very, very grateful. And I just wanted to say that. Um, you know, I hear you speak and I hear your passion for everything. And I mentioned to you previously 32 years of war at the age of 47. Nobody would blame you if you just said, I've had enough, I've served, I've got to go on and do something else. What keeps you in this fight? Why is it so important to you to not give up?
For me, it's a fight of my life and I cannot quit it. And I don't want to quit it. That's the sense of my life, and that's what I started. And my mission is, if I can, during my whole life and during my whole career, if I can save even one life, it is worth to do the fight. So I hope I helped somebody. I hope I saved somebody's life during all my 32 years of fight. And that's the mission. If each of us can save one life, we can save the world. And that's the point, that we don't have to sit and just look at what's going on. We have to be active participants, and we don't have a luxury to watch it on TV. Every normal human being today should be fighting against evil. It's an era of politicians that are not brave enough to hold and take decisions. And it's regular people who have to show and give them an example how to act and what to do. And, I'm not going to quit. I have nowhere to quit. And, all my guys who are today, right now, while we're talking, are shooting on a front line. They rely on me, and I cannot give them up. I cannot give up regular Ukrainians who are, crying when they see soldiers deoccupying villages. And that's the sense of our lives.
Wow, I'm so grateful to you, not only for your service, but for this interview. And I feel so inspired. And America, if you're listening, get some inoculation against disinformation. It's coming to you from trusted sources that speak your language. You don't know that they're working for Russian interests, but they are. High five, final thoughts, final words.
I find it kind of interesting because I view this disinformation as, it's a lot more dangerous, but it's children's lies, right? Because you just said that Russia tried to blame the Georgian Legion for the Maidan, but in America, all the Russian agents here who are spreading disinformation said it was the CIA that did the Maidan. So we can see these lies come out time after time after time. And it's just,
Yes, yes. Let me correct just one more thing that I want to tell you. Probably you have not seen this documentary that was made by one of Trump's PR managers during his first presidential campaign, Michael Caputo, if you know such a guy. Okay, Michael Caputo officially by his career was working 8 years for Gazprom Media, for Russians. His first movie, propaganda movie, was about Biden, but the evil in the documentary is a Georgian Legion. I'll send you, they started deleting it after the first presidential campaign of Trump, but I have downloaded the documentary. It was on Fox News as far as I remember. It's about 45 minutes where they say that Mamuka Mamulashvili was the guy who tried to do Maidan, and he even interrogated our American soldiers. He actually changed the facts and said that, Americans were going there by, a call of Mamuka to start a Maidan. And that's an American campaign. It's not, Yanukovych. It's not Putin talking about it. It happened in the U.S. Before that, the first movie was taken by one of the famous Italian channels, and they were saying the same. They have some, ethnical Georgians, as far as I know, in the documentary, where some 60 years old guys are saying that they're snipers of Georgian Legion. The guys that have never held a weapon in their, hand. It's easy to, prove that those guys are not snipers. Our snipers can, walk during the day 60 kilometers. Those guys will have a heart attack on, 10th step. And, it was really easy to prove that it was Russian disinformation. They had some, IDs in documentary where it says that they are part of it was even a grammatical mistake in their IDs. It was written Security Service of Defense of Georgia. Even such the part of Georgian defense does not even exist. Can you imagine how far they are going with their lies? And it was one of the first movies they did about Georgian Legion. Georgian Legion from the very beginning. They started doing it in the beginning of 2015. So
Wow.
I see the dynamics of those accusations, and they go far when we just started actually helping Ukrainians. It was just right in the beginning when we appeared in Ukraine. So
They already knew that you were going to grow into a 2,000, 2,500 unit force. Like they already knew. This is so familiar to this team. Each of us being attacked at the very beginning of the work that we were doing and infiltrated and always trying to go after any funding sources to hurt us from doing this work. I have something else I wanted to bring up with you, but one quick thing. How do you not let it get to you when lies are being told about you, when you are a man serving with honor for all the right reasons? How do you not let it get to you?
first, it's not a magic, I can tell you one thing about me, that I have never tried alcohol in my life. I never tried drugs in my life, and I have a very clear mind. And I know one simple thing that really works. Continue doing what you're doing, whatever anybody is saying. And we continued a fight on the front line. We did not pay attention at excuse me, bullshit that was spread. Unfortunately, Western society believed the most of the lies, but we continued doing our job. That's what the most important, and that's what they are trying to stop.
That's
We
exactly right. Oh,
were
thank you for that.
destroying daily a huge amount of Russian forces, and they were trying to make us turn our mind on something else and get occupied with justifying ourselves. That was the point
Yeah,
we were trying to do. But instead
yeah,
of that, they received that we did more military operations. We destroyed more Russian soldiers on the front line, and that's what they received during all this disinformation campaign. That's why they launched an assassination campaign together with that. That's what they were trying to do, just to kill me. That's it.
Okay, so I want to just see a little bit of the news clip here that you sent me, and I just want to show our viewers just a moment of that.
Чому ФСБ так бояться командира грузинського легіону, що так вклалися у фізичну ліквідацію?
Это когда мне это сообщили. Просто единственное, что я подумал, слава богу, что СБУ это вычислило раньше, чем они смогли это сделать. Мне не хотелось бы умирать не на поле боя, а умирать от какого-то российского киллера, который подожжет или взорвет мою машину. Для меня такая смерть неприемлема.
Я зустрілася з Мамукою Мамулашвілі на базі Грузинського національного легіону. Цей добровольчий підрозділ він створив у 2014-му, а з 2016-го легіон офіційно у складі ЗСУ. Це був перший інтернаціональний підрозділ в ЗСУ. Він починався з 200 вояків і виріс в 10 разів.
Это ребята, которые принимали участие в разных странах в борьбе против России. Это люди, которые прошли миссии, такие как Афганистан и Ирак. Это огромнейший накопленный опыт. Да, конечно, одной из специфик это диверсионная разведывательная работа. И да, есть группы, которые занимаются именно этой спецификой.
Мамука воює з росіянами з 14 років. Батько, генерал, ще хлопцем взяв його на війну на початку 90-х. Каже, не забуде. Єдині, хто приїхав на підмогу його народові тоді, були українці. Він пережив російський полон, воював в Чечні, захищав свою Грузію від росіян і у 2008-му.
То есть Россия не то, что становится цивилизованнее, она деградирует с каждой войной.
Based on the attacks and the attempts on your life and what we just witnessed there, why do you think you're still here?
In my opinion, it's just God that does not want to take my life yet. I'm still useful. I can still do something good, and that's why I can breathe right now. And I hope I will do maximum to save even one more life. So that's the point. In my opinion, that's the only thing why I am still alive.
Well, I will tell you, you may have just saved my life and my spirit for another day. I want to thank you so incredibly much for this interview. I also want people to know that if you want to help the Georgian National Legion in Ukraine, they take donations via PayPal, and the place to donate it to is help2164wolves at proton.me. That's help2164wolves at proton.me. They are taking donations for military first aid kits right now, which they desperately need as they continue this fight against Russian aggression. Mamuka, thank you so very much for being with us. And High Fidelity, anything you want to say?
Oh, I want to thank all Westerners who are supporting Ukraine. And it's not about Georgian Legion or somebody else, just support the right thing, support something that can save lives that are taken daily. And, pray for Ukraine because it defends all of us from the evil.
Completely. High five.
Slava Ukraine.
Thank you, Mamuka.
Thank you.